Alright, so I'm here to explain to y'all what happens when the North Node Rahu goes into the 12th house and the South Node Ketu goes into the 6th house. And this is an interesting placement to me. I don't really see this combination too much in birth charts, but I am about to go explain it. So first I'm going to start by explaining what the 12th house is. The 12th house is originally ruled by the sign Pisces and the planet Jupiter, because Jupiter, it rules Pisces and it rules Sagittarius. The 12th house is a house that represents spirituality, isolation, lost, and imprisonment. It's a spiritual house, as you obviously already knows. The reason that it represents, like, imprisonment and isolation is because usually when people go to jail, they find God. They become real spiritual and whatnot. And Jupiter, as we already know, is a spiritual, divine, wisdom, guru-like planet. So even in isolation, when you're just sitting with yourself and you become real reflective, you just start asking yourself deeper questions and stuff. You just become real philosophical, real spiritual and all that. You sort of find yourself in isolation. And another reason that this is a house known as the house of loss, because there's many ways to interpret loss. This house can also be associated with death, but it's not like literal death in a sense. It's like metaphorical death. In my opinion, planets that come in here, they sort of like give their energy away. Like they're sort of stripped of their materialistic qualities in a sense. Like, for example, if Mercury comes through here, these people, they might not be too well at thinking logically and clearly, but they become very intuitive. Saturn comes through here. Saturn, he might become real philanthropic. I know I'm messing up that word, but he might be real charitable with his energy and work. Venus comes through here. These people might just be terrible at spending money. They just be terrible with handling money, and they'll just become real sexual. But we'll get to that doing a series for those planets eventually. But they sort of get stripped of their materialistic, capitalistic qualities, in my opinion, when they come through the 12th house. So that is what the 12th house is. It represents, just straight up intuitiveness. Tarot, not really more so astrology, because astrology requires some type of methodology. It requires some type of intelligence, It requires some 8th house, 9th house, 5th house type things, not just the 12th. The 12th house you could just mainly see like astral projections, meditation, and tarot possibly. Moving on to the 6th. 6th house is originally ruled by Virgo and Mercury. The 6th house represents routine things that we do, just things that we do on a regular routine basis. It represents health, diseases, small pets and animals. And the 6th house, it just represents debts. DEBTS, debts, if I didn't say that already. Things that we just have to deal with on a regular basis. Just think of the 6th house as like you move out your parents' house and now you got to deal with all these things that you didn't have to worry about because you had somebody taking care of them already. You got to worry about the bills. You got to worry about, getting groceries. You're driving and you get a flat tire. Your roof is leaking. You got to go take your kid to the doctors, to the hospital. Just those regular, everyday, materialistic, earthly, humanly, worldly problems that you have to deal with is what the 6th house can represent. The 6th house can represent a 9 to 5 job. The issues that you got to deal in your job every day. Some co-worker who wants to be a manager, but they're really a co-worker. They just an employee. They got the same make same money as you, but they trying to tell you what to do. You got to deal with them. That type of stuff. You're in traffic and you're running late for work, and you got to come with some explanation for why you're going to be late or whatever. That type of stuff is what you can see with the 6th house. And that is why that's why Virgo is very, like nitpicky and critical and get all those stereotypes, because it takes a sharp, analytical, practical mind, calculative mind to deal with those everyday stuff that I just mentioned to you. So when you put the South Node Ketu here, it represents that you have experience with dealing with these things. You have experience with dealing with the everyday hustle and bustle and daily grind. You're used to that. You've experienced that. You've could have been a healer, because this is a house that represents health. So you could have been a healer, like not like a metaphysical healer, but like a literal, like a nurse, a doctor, a caterer, or a caregiver. The sixth house in some translations can be associated with slavery, because you're giving your energy away to something. You're selflessly giving something away, giving your energy away to something, maybe even at the detriment and cause of your own health. The sixth house can just the sixth house represents the things we give our energy away in like a materialistic sense. The 12th house represents the things we give our energy away and maybe more so a spiritual sense. So both of these houses are both like a house of loss, a house of expenses, where you're giving something away. It's just that one is spiritual and one is materialistic. I guess in the sixth house you lose your spirituality, because most people who are so caught up in the city life, urban life, they not really religious and spiritual and whatnot. They worried about things on the earthly regular realm. And in the 12th house, it's more so of imprisonment, isolation. It's just you and yourself and maybe a book or whatnot, and you're cut off from the world. So they both are two different types of losses. And Ketu, the south node, is very spiritual. It's a very spiritual placement. You know, it represents past your past life, things you experienced and dealt with in the past life. So just very spiritual. So naturally, it does not like being in the sixth house. It's like, what? I'm spiritual. You know, I want to be detached from these things. I don't want to deal with the earthly stuff. I don't want to deal with this stuff. So also, since Ketu does not have a head, because Rahu, the north node, is the head. Since Ketu does not have a head, these people can get themselves in trouble a lot. These people, for whatever reason, for just numerous examples that I can't really explain, they can land in the 12th house. What do I mean by that? Because they don't have a head, they can tend to not think logically when it comes to dealing with everyday things. And that's, though, not thinking logically on a regular, everyday basis can land them in imprisonment, either metaphorically or literally. You can go to jail, potentially, with displacement. Or maybe even the 12th house can represent like hospitals, because you're isolated from the world and you're isolated from the world and you're secluded, you know, and but you're healing. So these people, you know, on the downside, if they don't think logically, we have to see the sign and what planet is ruling Ketu. If they don't think logically, they could end up in the 12th house where they will get put in the hospital. The hospital can be a form of imprisonment. So you see, these people can land themselves in the 12th house a lot because they are not thinking logically. You know, these people, like I said, they've experienced all that hustle and bustle of the 6th house, and in this lifetime they want to be separated from it. They don't want to deal with it. They can't stay in that everyday routine regimen. You know, they'll dread it after a while. They'll get tired of it. They will want to run to the 12th house. That's what they want to do. They will want to run to the 12th house. They're like, oh, I can't take this 9-to-5 job no more. I want to quit. Or it's either I want to quit or I want to go on vacation. So this leads me to talk about the 12th house, North Node Rahu. Rahu, wherever that's at, that's a new area of our life that we really haven't experienced too much over our several lifetimes, you know? So we'll be like a baby in that area. And we'll tend to mess up because we're not really that knowledgeable and experienced in that area of our life. So someone with the Rahu, North Node, in the 12th house, they would desire to want to be in isolation. Be in nature. Be somewhere quiet. Be somewhere peaceful. Go to an area or land that they haven't really been to before, because the 12th house can represent foreign lands. You see, the 3rd house represents short distance travel, like within a state. The 9th house can represent long distance travel. That's like traveling the country. And the 12th house can represent foreign lands, foreign country. So that can represent like going to a whole nother continent, traveling the whole world. So these people, and usually, you know, you're unfamiliar when you go to like a whole nother continent or whatever. So these people can have a desire to want to go to, you know, an area or land where they haven't been to before, you know, just to find isolation and peace and a whole new environment, because they just would want to get away from the 6th house. Another thing that we will see, since the 12th house is a spiritual house, we can see that people with the North Node Rahu in the 12th house, they can have a desire to want to dive into spirituality. You know, this is like someone who, like I said, they got tired of their nice paying job or their job at McDonald's, at Chick-fil-A, and it's a, look, I know there's more than life than this. I am tired of this stuff. I want to go explore something new. I want to find peace. I want to be happy in my skin. I want to be happy in this world. And they'll be spiritual. You know, they'll start meditating, start doing yoga, get into tarot. They'll be curious about the unknown. They'll be curious about this, about those type of things. You know? And when they get tired of being in isolation, or when they get tired of being in isolation or whatever, or struggle to grasp spirituality, they'll fall back on to the 6th house. They'll run back to the 6th house with the regular daily grind and all that stuff. You know, the key to the Rahu in North Node always is, the Rahu, North Node, South Node, Ketu, is to always take the past life experiences of the South Node Ketu and integrate them with the North Node Rahu. Use that past life experience to help your North Node. So something that you might see here is that these people, they would probably love to just be like a gypsy. They want to be free. They want to be spiritual. But you just can't be fully spiritual. You got to eat. You got to make money some way, somehow. So these people, they'll run back to their 9-to-5 job. That's some crap. I want to be free. I don't want to deal with these things. But I know I can't survive in this corporate world like that. I'll need a job. I need shelter. I need food. So they run back to that 6th house. They'll run back to that regular routine stuff, that grind, that 9-to-5. Or, you know, these people, they might have a family. They might just be like, yo, I wish I could just be free of the responsibility of kids and husband and wife. I love them, but I love my solitude more. So these people, they'll have to find a way to integrate these two areas of their life. You know, there will always be some type of imbalance between the Rahu and the Ketu, because these two areas in our chart, they don't really mature until we get to our 40s. Then we'll find some stability naturally in those two areas of our life. And like I said, these people, they'll have to find a way to make sure that they can get paid and eat from doing 6th house things, while at the same time they're able to be free and spiritual. So, for example, someone, just throwing a wild example, it can manifest in many different ways. Someone might be tired of their 9-to-5 job, and they went on some pilgrimage, or they went to some spiritual community, and you know, they learned how to make waist beads and charms and necklaces and sprays and all that, and they're like, wow, I like that stuff. I would really like to learn how to do that stuff, and I wish I could get paid off of these little things so I don't have to work that 9-to-5 job and punch in and punch out. I would rather just be in my own little sanctuary, own little environment, and make money doing spiritual like things. So that's one example of something that you can see with someone with this placement. But like I said, someone with the South Node in the 6th house, they could be potentially naturally a healer. But that depends greatly on the sign of the 5th house and the planet that's sitting there and the lord of that. You know, if it's like Jupiter or Cancer, some water placements, then this person might be inclined to naturally be like a healer and spiritual or whatnot. You know, but yeah, these examples I'm giving is very broad, because the North Node and Rahu, they really behave based upon the sign and the planet that is ruling them. This is just a broad example, but ultimately that is it. These people, they're tired of, they dread that regular 6th house things. They tired of having to pay the bills and take out the trash and drive in traffic. They just want to get away from all this stuff and just be spiritual. And they might struggle at first to be in isolation and to maybe grasp spirituality, but they'll always run to it eventually, or run to some type of form of isolation, or be curious about that 12th house, and they'll find some type of balance before life is over for them, hopefully. And that's it. That's all I got for you when it comes to the North Node Rahu in the 12th house and the South Node Ketu in the 6th house. Thanks for watching.